Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is May 13th, 2025, and Javier Tebas has attacked Barcelona once again. Also, Deco in an interview seemed to hint at what Barcelona are looking for during this summer transfer market. And finally, we're going to discuss the Ballon d'Or standings as of today. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo and we'll begin this video with the news that the La Liga's president Javier Tebas has once again attacked Barcelona. Now these are the statements that Javier Tebas said today. He said, "We are in person and we are going to the end." Talking about the Negreira case. In my opinion, there is sporting corruption. I have already said it. Referees were not bought. But if they try to influence the promotions of referees, it is corruption. So Javier Tebas once again bringing up the Negreira case for no damn reason, because this guy, his name is not Javier Tebas if he's not talking about FC Barcelona. So of course he had to bring up Negreira once again. And of course, what a coincidence. It happens only a few days after Barcelona defeated Real Madrid for the fourth time this season, where Barcelona are only one step away from winning La Liga title. And there comes Javier Tebas talking about the Negreira case, which again, I am not surprised one bit. Now, the funny thing about all of this is that Tebas is talking about something that has already been discussed. You know, if you don't know by now, when Barcelona first were being investigated for hiring the former referee, Jose Maria Enriquez Negreira, who at the time was also one of the vice presidents of the CTA, they were investigating to see if whether through Negreira, Barcelona were bribing referees. In other words, Barcelona were giving money to Negreira, and then Negreira would take that money, pay referees to influence the competition. Of course, that has been disproved. There's absolutely no evidence of that. The prosecutor's office has said that there's no evidence of that. The Treasury have said that there's no evidence of that. Javier Tebas himself has said that there's no evidence of that. The UEFA have said that there's no evidence of that. So there's absolutely no evidence that Barcelona bribed any referees through Negreira. So of course, the other hypothesis that was floated by the judge, or the former judge that was overseeing the investigation, was the whole promotion and demotion. Well, he said, okay, there's no evidence of bribing referees directly, so maybe Barcelona did it through promotion and demotion. In other words, you tell a second division referee, hey, if you want to make it to first division, you have to rule in favor of Barcelona. Are you okay with that? Great, then we promote you. And of course, when you get promoted to first division, you make a lot more money. Or on the opposite, if you're a first division referee and you're not in favor of helping Barcelona out, you would get demoted to second division, which means you would make less money. Of course, this hypothesis was floated around and it was immediately dismissed because guess what? Negreira had zero power on promotion and demotions. He had absolutely no influence on that. So how can you pay someone to promote and demote referees when they don't have the power to do it? So not only Javier Tebas once again attacking Barcelona for no reason, once again doing it after Barcelona beat Real Madrid, which is Javier Tebas' team, but also hashing up something that has already been debunked time and time again. And of course, my question is to Joan Laporta is, what are you waiting for, Mr. Laporta? As you know, Real Madrid have already brought a complaint against Javier Tebas for leaking confidential information from a survey, a confidential survey that Real Madrid had taken. The Royal Spanish Football Federation president, Luis Rubiales, has brought his own complaint against Javier Tebas for corruption because the allegations are that he tried to bribe a former Royal Spanish Football Federation board member, offering him 150,000 euros in exchange to access to confidential information so he can blackmail pretty much the blackmail Rubiales and get him out of his position. And now Barcelona could also bring a complaint because Tebas, of course, discussed in a public statement on La Liga's website and through his Twitter account financial information pertaining to Barcelona. And per the rules, La Liga president or La Liga cannot divulge this information. It's confidential. So Barcelona could bring an official complaint. And if they do, since Madrid already brought their own, since Luis Rubiales has brought his own, that would mean the end of the presidency of Javier Tebas. And yet, Joan Laporta wants to continue playing nice with a guy who time and time again keeps coming after our club. So I'll ask again, Mr. Laporta, what are you waiting for? Now, speaking, of course, of La Liga title, as you know, Barcelona are set to play against Espanyol on Thursday. If Barcelona win, then that would mean that they will become the La Liga champions. But first, Real Madrid will be playing tomorrow. And if Real Madrid tomorrow draw or lose, that could mean that Barcelona would become champions without even having to play the match against Espanyol. And that means that Barcelona would arrive at the Espanyol Stadium already champions. And, well, reporters very close to Espanyol have confirmed that if that happens, if Real Madrid drop points tomorrow and Barcelona arrive as champions to the Espanyol match, Espanyol will be doing a guard of honor, which if you don't know what a guard of honor is, I'm sure you do, but assuming that you don't, it's when players of the opposing team line up, they clap as the champion team walks through, kind of like as a recognition of them being champions. And I think that's pretty admirable. Of course, if you don't know, there's always been a lot of hostility between Barcelona and Espanyol. It goes all the way back to the history with the Civil War and how Espanyol kind of took the side of Madrid and Franco and kind of left Barcelona on their own in the fight between Catalans and Franco. But anyways, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the history, but it's good to see that at least some rivals still have the decency of doing this, because if you might recall, Real Madrid refused to do this a few seasons ago. So I'm glad to see that at least Espanyol, out of anyone, still have some decency in them. Anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news, because Deco, in some statements that he did in his most recent interview, hinted at what Barcelona could be looking for during this summer transfer market. And this is what the Barcelona sporting director had to say. I don't think this team, given its dynamic and joy, has anyone willing to leave. We've already renewed most of the contracts. Now we have to take care of those who are here. Last year, I said we couldn't lose anyone. I think it's the same now. If we can improve, it's always possible. But the key is to keep what we have consolidated for the coming years. Suddenly, we feel very dependent on Rafinha, on Lamine. Maybe we need similar players, a solution for them. The squad is quite balanced, and at the base, we also have a lot of good things. So Deco, of course, emphasizing that now the main goal of Barcelona is to continue renewing contracts. They want to keep what they have. And of course, if they can reinforce, talking about how we've become very dependent on Lamine and Rafinha, and we need someone like them. In other words, Deco hinting that Barcelona's main objective will be a winger that can compete with Lamine and Rafinha, and of course, give them rest. And of course, my question to you is, who do you think Barcelona is going to sign this summer? Is it going to be Nico Williams, someone else? Also, if you were Deco, who would you sign? Let me know down below in the comment section. Now, Deco also spoke about his how this team exceeded his expectations, because at the beginning of the season, the goal was for this team to compete. And not only did the team compete, but they competed against a strong Real Madrid, the Real Madrid that had just signed Kylian Mbappe. And finally, Deco also confirmed that Lamine Yamal will be renewing, which of course we all knew this already. And speaking of Lamine Yamal, we'll end this video by looking at the current Ballon d'Or standings, because ladies and gentlemen, Lamine Yamal has now overtaken Coutinho, because Coutinho was the number one, wasn't sitting number one for a favorite to win the Ballon d'Or, but now it's Lamine Yamal, the best player in the world, currently sitting in first, with right behind him Ousmane Dembélé, who of course has already won the French League and French Cup and has a chance at winning the Champions League against Inter Milan. And if that happens, I have a feeling that most likely Dembélé would end up being the winner. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because I do think Lamine Yamal deserves it over Dembélé. But of course, we all know how the Ballon d'Or has become lately. You kind of have to win the Champions League in order to become the Ballon d'Or winner, which I don't understand the logic behind it. If you're the best, period. Doesn't matter whether you win the Champions League or not. But anyways, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Plus, not to mention, winning the French League and French Cup, it's really not that impressive. I mean, PSG win those two trophies by default every season. But anyways, that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm being biased. You let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Anyways, that is all the news for this video. We'll be uploading 2 more videos, so stay tuned to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, peace, Barca.